What's all this, Graham?
Robbie, what are you doing, man? We got technology now.
Wow. When do you get all this? I'm bringing the board in for you, bro.
We don't no more board, Rob. We don't need a board anymore, man.
Oh, so you all... It's like that, yeah?
AFTV,
Technology.
up market.
Wow, up market. Graham's gone up market. You going to know how to control all this?
I wouldn't go that far.
Graham, you know what? With this technology, we might be able to replace you. You better be careful, mate.
Yeah, I'm on borrowed time.
You have to get the shop steward in, you know what I mean? Right? No, that looks good. That looks good. People have been asking for a bit of, technology on there. You know, the old board was getting a bit manky, and that has served its purpose well.
And
but
Don Robbie has come up with the goods.
We come up with the goods, man. I mean, it's looking good. So, I like this. I like the setup. So, Graham, what I really want you to do today is explain to me, right? And we're going to start off by talking about that game, Arsenal versus Burnley, which was another draw. Another draw. I mean, what's it? 13 draws this season. Graham, what I want you to do today is just talk me through why Arsenal are drawing so many games and how we turn those draws into wins. Because had we have won even half of those games we drawn, had we have turned those into 3 points, we'd be right up there in the top 4 right now. Because we've only lost 6 games, which, well, you say only lost 6 games, there's a lot of games, but even the teams in second, third and fourth place have lost the same amount of games. But we just draw too many games. And we saw it again in the Burnley game, 0-0 draw. All right, we're defending better, but we're not scoring. Why?
Before I start, Robbie, I just want to give a shout out. I don't give shout outs very often, but I got this guy messaging me from South Africa called Kyle, and his dad, Brent McFarlane, is a massive AFTV fan. And he messaged me to say his dad, it's one of the reasons he supports Arsenal. His dad and me started supporting Arsenal around the same year, 1971. And his dad is got stage 4 cancer and motor neuron disease. His dad's name is Brent McFarlane. He said it'd be a massive thing if you could give him a shout out on the show today. So if you could just look in the camera and wish Brent.
Big shout out to Brent McFarlane. I think I gave him a shout out the other day as well. I saw the plight and it's really, really sad. But listen, keep the faith. Hopefully we can get a couple of wins for you, Brent. I mean, I'm sure he'd love to see one just as much as we would. But no, thank you very much. And listen, it's what we share, Arsenal. It's this great club, and we just want to see this club get back to winning ways. And how do we do that?
Right. First of all, you asked the question.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna.
I like him on his technology now. Look at him.
There we go. So that right.
Oh, notes.
Notes. Yeah. Right. So first of all, let me just give some stats here before we talk about how we're going to improve or try and get Arsenal winning more games. Arsenal have won just 6 league games this season. Only Watford 5 and Norwich 4 have won less.
That's terrible.
It's their lowest tally since 1912-13 after 25 league games, Robbie. And that was the year we were actually relegated. And we've only scored 1 more goal in a league game since November, which tells you that our attacking play
we're not scoring
enough, not creating enough goals.
With the attacking players that we have of Lacazette, Aubameyang, Martinelli.
I think before I go on to that, the last stat down the bottom is worth mentioning. That for all that, Arteta has improved us. The last 9 games of Emery against the first 9 games of Arteta in all competitions. Emery's last 9, he only won 1, and that was against Victoria in the Europa. Drew 4, lost 4. Arteta has come in and won 3, drawn 5, lost 1. So what he's done is he's given us a structure, a shape. He's got us defending better, and I think he decided to address that. Right, that is the first thing he's done.
Yeah.
But it's been at the expense of the attacking play because he's asking forwards like Aubameyang and Lacazette to track back, and they're defending now as a team, sometimes deep, and to ask those players then to sort of like run 60 yards up the pitch into attacking areas and then create, I think has been probably one of the reasons why we haven't been creating and scoring so many goals. And I think in the away games this season, I put a stat up there, 2 of the players he's been playing in these games. Lacazette, no away goal now for 359 days.
Jeez.
Since February the 19th, 2019.
That's nearly a year.
Yeah.
A year ago since Lacazette scored an away goal.
Yeah, no away
Wow.
goal for 359 days. Last one was at Huddersfield.
Jeez.
Mesut Ozil, last away assist away from home, v Swansea, January the 30th, 2018. So when
Serious?
yeah,
2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was his last assist.
yeah. So when you're asking players, if you're keeping faith with these two players and not producing, that is some of your problems away from home. Now I think that Ozil in the number 10 role has started very well under Arteta, and he started well yesterday in the game against Burnley. So, but ultimately he faded. So I will tackle later on ways I think we can, because I think Arteta has given us more defensive structure, but I think I'm going to touch on later in the video how I think he can improve us offensively to start scoring goals. Okay. I thought yesterday, this is the way the teams lined up. If you look at it, Burnley lined up in their 4-4-2. Loughton, Tarkowski, me and Taylor the defenders. And then he had these very narrow two banks of four with Hendrick, Westwood, Cork, McNeil and Wood and Rodriguez. So he plays a two up front, Sean Dyche. He's not one for expansive play, but he played two up front. Now Arsenal played a 4-2-3-1. Bellerin, Mustafi, Luiz, Saka was our defence. Mustafi coming back in when many people thought he wasn't going to be fit for the game after the injury in the cup game. Saka retaining his position on the left, but I think I was very surprised by Arteta's team selection, because one thing he's gone for is playing people in their correct positions and playing in a structure. First of all, we broke up the pivot, which is a surprise to me, because I think Torreira and Xhaka is our best pivot. Right, he played Guendouzi on the right-hand side, Xhaka on the left. And then he played Ozil in the number 10 role in the 3. But he played Martinelli, interestingly, on the right and Aubameyang on the left. Martinelli has been successful this season playing on this side.
Yeah, out on the left.
So he could have played Aubameyang on the right and Martinelli on the left. Because
however, Aubameyang's been successful on the left as well.
But that would have kept the combination between Saka and Martinelli. But he chose not to do that. And I think one of the reasons is he liked Aubameyang cutting inside and going onto his right foot. I think that's one of the reasons why he went with that formation, and Laka retained his position up front. I think what his plans were in this game, Arteta, was to actually, we had the extra man in midfield, Robbie. So Burnley are playing a 4-4-2, they're playing with two strikers, and Ozil is the key man for him. So the key for Arsenal really was to play out from the back and then play into the central pivot of Xhaka and Guendouzi, and they'd be looking to sort of find Ozil, because Burnley were pushing on in these early stages. Wood was pushing up, Rodriguez was pushing up, and obviously their midfield was also pushing up. Hendrick, Westwood, Cork and McNeil. So the key really is to play through the press, give it to Xhaka, Guendouzi, and look to find Ozil in these pockets of space. And Ozil was drifting out a lot early on over here a lot of the time, sometimes onto the right hand side, but he was getting a lot of space, and it surprised me really, Burnley's tactics in that first 25 minutes, because it reminded me a bit of an Emery team. There was a big gap between the offensive players pressing high and the defence sitting deep, so we had a lot of space. So Ozil was very effective, Robbie, in the first 20 minutes where he was finding pockets of space in behind the lines here. Lacazette was up here, Aubameyang was coming inside, and Saka was coming up here. So we were sort of like...
Saka's creating a lot of width in the game. So
Xhaka and Guendouzi were moving, playing the ball through the press. And basically we had, Ozil had 8 forward passes in that first 25-30 minutes, and he was very influential. He played one ball out wide to Aubameyang, who put the cross in for Lacazette, and he had a headed chance very early on where he should have done better.
Should have scored that.
Should have
done better. Should have scored.
So what did Dyche do to counter this? Obviously, what he then asked is, he noticed obviously Ozil was in the pockets of space. He decided to move his back four press higher. So you had Loughton, Tarkowski, me, and Taylor pushing higher. And what he did then, when Ozil started drifting over, Ozil by now was drifting over, he asked McNeil, I'll just move McNeil in there, McNeil to sit on Ozil, or to block the passing lane to Ozil, because Bellerin was playing very narrow on the right-hand side. Bellerin was not getting forward much. He was very narrow here, because Arsenal were exclusively using the left-hand side, looking to push Saka high, to drag Loughton inside. Aubameyang was taking Loughton inside to create the place for Saka for the cross, and he was very good for that first 20 minutes, Saka, until they fouled him.
Yeah.
And he never really recovered from that. But that was basically...
The game turned on Saka coming off, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So first 25 minutes, Robbie, that was what we were doing, really. Looking, Lacazette sometimes drifting in to look to try hold the play up. But to be honest with you, the ball was bouncing off him a lot in this game. And I think he's struggling a bit for form at the moment, Laka. But we had sort of like, Loughton was being dragged inside by Aubameyang. Saka was getting on the outside. Hendrick was obviously trying to cover that space. But we're getting crosses into the box, and then we had that one real key moment when David Luiz pinned an absolutely superb ball in where Aubameyang runs inside and gets through one-on-one with Pope. A really good chance.
And I still can't believe how poor a finish that was by Aubameyang. You know what I mean? I don't think... he should have scored as well. Those were the two big chances for Arsenal.
First of all, I think it was brilliant the way he peels off Tarkowski. He spins in really well, and it's a brilliant in-to-out pass by Luiz. Luiz coming forward, instead of going through the central pivot, he played that really long ball. Aubameyang's in, and what I think he really should have been looking to do, Robbie, was to sort of like, he tried to put his laces through it, didn't he, and really ping it, when he should have really played at the inside, maybe inside the foot.
Yeah,
and
just curled it in or something.
And curled it in, but it was a poor finish. So by now Burnley are sort of like grown into the game. Arsenal, first 25 minutes, Dykes has adjusted. He's moved his sort of midfield players. He's moved his defence slightly higher. Ozil's getting less space, so he's slowly but surely becoming less of a figure in the game. And they're now pressing us high up the pitch, and then it becomes the sort of game that Burnley want, where basically they've sort of like snuffed us out between the lines. Then Saka gets
Saka got injured.
So he played on for 15 minutes, but he wasn't the same. So we've lost our decisiveness down the left-hand side. Dyche's adjustment has taken Ozil out of the game, and Martinelli couldn't get into the game on the right-hand side. He's sort of like totally ineffective on the right-hand side. So in effect, our attacking play dried up, and then slowly but surely, Burnley started looking for longer balls, win second balls, knockdowns.
They're playing long balls into
the box.
Long balls up front into the box for the knockdowns. Yeah. They're playing long balls into the channels to run onto. It was very Burnley-like, but it was effective. I mean, and they hit the post. You know what I mean? They were a bit unlucky not to get a goal. They were all over us for a lot of that game, well, although we kind of came back into it in patches.
I thought at half-time, we had the first 25 minutes. They came into it a little bit towards the end of the first half. 0-0 at half-time. Second half, they came out, and we basically were not at the same level. They pinned us back, and they started getting winning second balls, knocking crosses in. Of their 15 attempts at goal, only 2 were on target, but they were mainly headers. They were sort of long balls, diagonal balls into the box. And we talked that there were 2 key moments in that second half. One was Kendrick. I've got to figure him here because he has a wonderful headed chance. Yeah. He was around the penalty spot and he puts it wide. And then the real key moment in the game later on was when Rodriguez appears on the back stick here, and we have I think it's McNeil who gets in across from the right hand side from Loughton. So Loughton's up here. By now Saka has gone off and has been replaced. Torreira came into midfield, and Loughton pins it in. McNeil gets it across to Rodriguez, who really should score from 2 yards, but he lashes it against the underside of the bar, and that's where technology comes to our rescue. Showed it clearly on the line.
Technology coming to your rescue.
Yeah. So in the end, I thought we were hanging on. We made a few changes. Willock added a bit of energy last 20 minutes, and we sort of like created one real chance when Aubameyang had the header. But I thought overall Burnley were more likely to win the game. They had 15 attempts, 2 on target. We had 13 attempts, 2 on target. And I think you are
an even
right.
game, innit?
It was an even game, but they slightly shaded it. I don't think it was what Jermaine Janus said on TV last night when he turned around and said that Burnley totally dominated the game. That was absolutely ridiculous.
You know, he's a Tottenham guy, isn't he? I mean, biased. But
so, in the end, we hung on.
Yeah.
Say that we play. I would sum it up. We played well for 25 minutes. Didn't take our early chances, and in the end, we were hanging on for a draw. And although they only created 2 on, they created 15 chances. They had 15 attempts at goal, 2 on target. But they were looking more likely to score. But I have to say, I thought Mustafi was our man of the match.
Yeah, he played well.
And since he's been back in the team, you know, his numbers yesterday were outstanding. He won 6 of his 8 headed duels, 7 out of 7 clearances, and he was outstanding. And Luiz, I think, has been rejuvenated lately as well. So
yeah, I mean, you've got to give it up to Mikel Arteta. He's getting the best out of so many players. He's getting the best out of Mustafi, out of Luiz, out of Xhaka. He's a completely different player. You know, even when he dropped into left back to replace Saka, I thought he did very well. He's getting the best out of it. The only people he's not really getting the best out of at the moment are the attacking players in, I suppose Ozil's improved, but we still need to see more. Lacazette is really off form. I didn't even know that stat about away games, even that stat with Ozil. There's an argument for leaving both of those out at the moment, especially when we go away from home. And Aubameyang looked a bit rusty coming back. He didn't look his sharp self, you know what I mean? So, what is the reason why we're just drawing so many games? Why everyone's calling us Draw FC right now, you know? Every single game we seem to draw. You know, why is that? I mean, I think I know in the Emery days, he was so pragmatic, it was no surprise we were drawing games. But why is it Arteta's drawing games, or is it just that we've had some difficult games? Because, you know, Burnley is not an easy game, right? They've just beaten Leicester at home. They beat Manchester United. Let's not get it twisted and think that was an easy game yesterday. And they always make it tough. No surprise when you see a game like that become a draw. They draw a lot of games, Burnley. Chelsea away with down to 10 men, right, we understand the draw there, but why do we draw so many games? Sheffield United draw.
I think we're struggling to create, Robbie. I think that is the I think the problem we've got is we've got 2 main areas of concern for me. That is, we haven't got players who can run through lines. What we'll call players who can pick the ball up, dribble and run through lines. Take players on, beat them, drive us forward. I'm going to come on to him in a minute.
Yeah. Which was frustrating not to see him get on yesterday.
And we haven't got players who can run in behind. Or we're not playing players in positions where they can run in behind.
These guys Aubameyang can run in behind. Martinelli can run in behind.
But he's playing him at the moment, Robbie, where he wants him to sort of like drift inside.
Yeah.
So he's playing him. Is he playing him wide left because he thinks that's his best position? Or is he playing him there because he wants Lacazette in the team down the middle? Now, if he wants someone to run in behind, I think Aubameyang's the man, but he has to play down the middle. Yesterday, Burnley pushed high, right? Once Deitch made his adjustment, he pushed his team up to snuff out the gap between the lines to stop Ozil from getting into pockets of space. What Arsenal needed then, he should have made a substitution at the start of the second half. He should have brought on Pepe straight away. I would have taken off Lacazette. I would have moved Pepe out right, moved Martinelli over to the left, and played Aubameyang down the middle. Because the moment you play Aubameyang down the middle, Burnley then got to think about, hold it, if we're pushing up high here, they play a ball over the top, he's in. So, and I know he did in the first half get in on that, but that was an outstanding ball from David Luiz. You're not going to get them every 5 minutes of a game. So I think he could go that way, because I think we need somebody who can run in behind. Aubameyang's the one with the pace who can do that, but for that you've got to play him centrally. You know, people say you play Lacazette because he holds the ball up, but he's not holding the ball up at the moment. His confidence is low, and I think balls are bouncing off him. He's not scoring goals, and his game at the moment is just not what it was when he first arrived. I long for that old Lacazette, but he's not there at the moment. So
I'm staggered as well by the Ozil stat.
Yeah,
you know that he's not created a single assist away from home since 2018. I'm staggered by that. So that's what we got him in the team for.
He would argue that if he's putting the ball on the plate and players are not.
Yeah.
So and he played 8 forward passes in that first half, and he was working hard.
How many? The other things about
a lot of ball
Ozil
recoveries he had as well.
He doesn't score goals.
Doesn't score goals like he used to.
There's no goals from this midfield.
So I think that if in answer to your question, how can we improve Arsenal? How can he during this warm winter break that he's going to have, come back and try something different. He's got two options. He can either play Aubameyang down the middle, in which case he's going to have to leave Lacazette out, because I would then play Pepe on the right and Martinelli on the left. He leaves Lacazette out and plays Aubameyang. That gives him somebody running in behind, so teams then can't push up, or if they do push up, they run the risk of that. That gives him an option of balls in behind. Or what he could do, and this is something that I think could be explored, if Ozil, he decides that Ozil isn't his man in that position, why not give Pepe a chance in that position? Now Pepe is the one who can drive through lines. He can basically pick the ball up and run through lines with pace and get teams running backwards. So that's another option that he could do to try and make us more offensively creative. So you've got two options there. Aubameyang running in behind, or Pepe, because Ozil...
So Pepe taking over from in Ozil position.
Yeah.
So you're saying, instead of like trying to find killer passes,
he's got to leave out, Robbie, if he's going to change it, I think the two players who are struggling for form are Lacazette and Ozil, particularly away from home. I think he's got to ditch one of them, right? So if he ditches Lacazette, he could keep Ozil in the team. I think Ozil's still valuable for Arsenal at home when teams sit deep. So if you've got teams sitting deep, like what Burnley were doing in that first 20 minutes, Ozil then can get on the ball in pockets of space and create things against teams who are sitting deep. But when teams are pushing up, like what Burnley did really well in that game, and McNeil then moved on to Ozil, and if McNeil then had to go and deal with Bellerin, Cork came across and sat on Ozil. So and they just sort of like knocked out the passing lanes to Ozil. So the moment that is, when they're pushing high, Ozil's ineffective. He hasn't got the pace to get away from players. He relies on sort of like clever movement into pockets of space. But Pepe is a totally different person who can sort of like pick the ball up and drive with it. And he's created second most goal contributions for Arsenal this season behind Aubameyang. So, and even though he hasn't been playing as much, and he had been playing well under Arteta, that's why I was so surprised he left him out yesterday. Right, so the two options of Robbie, what I would say then to improve Arsenal is he leaves out Lacazette. Taking Lacazette out, he moves Aubameyang central.
Yeah.
Martinelli comes across on the left.
Right.
And then Pepe comes in. So Martinelli comes across on the left and Pepe comes in on the right. Right, and then Ozil stays centrally. So that's one thing he could do.
Yep.
Then you've got the ability of Aubameyang to move behind the lines, pace in behind. Or
a
the
lot
other
of pace and trickery there.
Yeah, or if he's going to leave Ozil out, Aubameyang comes over Aubameyang comes over to the right, of course. And then Martinelli comes over to the left. Pepe comes in.
Pepe comes in instead of Ozil.
Ozil, yeah.
Right.
And then you get Lacazette back here. So what that does then, you've got Pepe able to drive from a central position. So that's the two ways I would do it. Possibly, I think we lack somebody who can drive from midfield and dribble. Pepe could give us that option, get him on the ball. Or we play with Aubameyang running in behind. That would give us more threat offensively.
You think Pepe centrally though?
Well, he's got a left foot like Ozil, and when he played for Lille, he was picking the ball up, turning and driving with the ball, albeit in wide areas.
But he does sometimes have a tendency to overplay a little bit, so if he could get caught in that area as well, and that's the other dangerous thing. Although the one thing Mikel Arteta has, as you said, done is we're not easy to counter on. We saw it at the start of the season. A team would win the ball there and then they're straight in on us. But he has got us better set up defensively, hasn't he?
I think until he gets his defenders in, I think you'll find that at the moment, one of the reasons why he's playing with this structure, he's asking the forward players like Aubameyang and Martinelli to work back, is because he's as well as Mustafi and Luiz are playing. And we're not conceding 30 shots a game now. He is still worried about them defensively because they're not what I would call top-notch defenders. He's got if he could get his centre half sorted out for next season, the ones he wants, more quality in his defenders in the middle of the defence, then he wouldn't have to worry so much about those forward players coming back to defend so much in wide areas. So I think at the moment, I think this is sort of like he's inherited he's making the best of the players he's got, and he's trying to get a structure in place that makes us more solid defensively, and that's asking a lot of our attacking players. Whereas I think if he's got more solidity in his defence, look at Liverpool. They were able to play that sort of 2-3-5 system because they've got Van Dijk. They know he's going to. They can just leave him there, 2 players back, and he's going to mop it up, isn't he? So I think that's one of the reasons. I think when he gets the right central defenders in, I think then he'd ask his attacking players to do less defensively, and they can be better offensively. But for now, I think with what he's got, to me the best options are trying to create more going forward. Something like Aubameyang running in behind. Or I'll give Pepe a run in the middle there to see whether he can get on the ball, drive past players, and then bring Martinelli and Aubameyang into play if he's going to keep Lacazette. But I think the problem he's got in the short term, he's got 2 players, particularly away from home, Lacazette and Ozil, who are very ineffective at the moment. I think he might suddenly think about ditching one of them.
All right, well, listen, we're going into now the winter break, right? So Arsenal team's going to be off to some warm weather training over in Dubai. I hope they're not living it up in the White Club and things like that. Nice club that is, by the way. But listen, we hope that they can come back rejuvenated. We really need to start seeing more from Lacazette and Ozil, particularly away from home. Maybe it might be a good job that our next couple of fixtures, once we return, are going to be home in the league against Newcastle and Everton. Got a trip to Olympiacos as well in the Europa League. But
the next 3 home games, Robbie, in the league are Newcastle at home, Everton at home, West Ham at home. Because the Man City game's now been cancelled.
That's right, yeah.
So we've got 3 home games in the Premier League.
Yeah.
These 3 home games are absolutely vital.
Yeah.
If he can win 2, even 3 of those, I think we'll be looking at things in a entirely different
if you
way.
win 3 on the bounce, that could start pushing us right back up the table.
But if he doesn't start winning them, then I don't know what you think. If we don't start winning those home games, I think it'll be a concern because we are still only 7 points as off that bottom 3, aren't we? So I'm not saying.
Yeah.
And although people don't think we will go down, I personally don't think we go down. But you can't take it for granted.
Yeah, you can't take it for granted. But one thing I know, I think there's a lot more steel in this team. So obviously, definitely harder to score against, definitely harder to beat, but just hard to be beaten at the moment. And we need to get back to taking a bit of the reliability off of Aubameyang and everybody else now starting to chip in and to start getting us scoring again and getting us attacking again. But it's a process, I suppose. Graham, thank you very much. I've loved the technology today. No more boards then?
No more boards.
No more boards, right?
It's my first time today, so
you did. This is your first time. You did brilliantly. You did brilliantly.
Come in just to sort of come in here and just start it today without any real training on it. So it will get better. I promise you. We're going to introduce more tools over the coming weeks. And
is that right? High tech.
High tech, and it'll be getting better as the weeks go on. I'm sure with people.
Thank you very much.